Hi everyone, good morning. I hope everyone had a great weekend. So we are more than halfway through Summer Reading Challenge. You have read over 16,000 minutes. Some of you have actually already completed the program, which is wonderful. So remember, the more that you log in your minutes, the better chance that you have to win one of the grand prizes. There is a grand prize for all of the programs for adults, so 19 and older, for teens, 18 and younger, and for children, which is, I believe, pre-K through 12. So there is also a prize. Remember, if you do a book review, you will also be entered into a separate drawing for a Barnes & Noble gift card. I'm really enjoying reading the book reviews. So if you haven't done one yet, there's still plenty of time. You can enter one or several. You'll be entered into that drawing. So this week, our theme will be mythology. So I'll be reading a Celtic myth for our story time today. And then for the story walk, we'll be doing a little bit different. Instead of a story, the story walk is going to have the different Greek gods and goddesses. So if you wanted to pop over to the library, it seems like it might be a little cooler this week. So if you want to come over and take a look at the story walk, you can read about the different gods and goddesses. There are lots of different myths, though. We're not just the Roman or Greeks or Celtic. There's also Chinese mythology, Norse mythology, all kinds of wonderful things. And we have a lot of that here in the library. So if you have any questions or if you wanted to further study or study the mythology that we have, feel free to come into the library. Remember, we are open to the public Monday through Thursday, 10 to 12. We close from 12 to 2, and then we open again from 2 to 8. I'm also going to have another grab and go craft this week. So you're going to be learning how to do an embroidery of a unicorn, which will match the story that we have today. I do have crafts left over from last week. I hope you all enjoyed it, the Jack and the Leanstalk. So if you wanted to pick up the craft from last week, feel free to come into the library and get that one along with the one for this week. All right. So if you'll join me, we'll go right ahead and we will start with the Celtic legend. So today's story is going to be a Celtic legend, and it is from the Kingfisher Treasury of Myths and Legends. And this is called The Unicorn, a Celtic Legend. Long ago, in the days of King Arthur and his knights, there lived a girl named Rhiannon. Her father had been thrown into prison by the cruel Sir Brangwyn, who said he'd been stealing deer from the forest. This was a lie. Her father was one of the most honorable men in the village, and that was why Sir Brangwyn had gotten rid of him. With men like Rhiannon's father around, the great lord wouldn't have dared to cheat and lie and to demand such high taxes. He'd been put in prison to keep his mouth shut. Rhiannon's mother had to work in the castle kitchen to pay for the miserable scraps of food her husband ate. So, when the story begins, poor Rhiannon had neither father nor mother. People called her Sir Brangwyn's orphan, and how she hated him for taking away her innocent parents. She had to work too, even though she was only 9 years old. Her job was to hunt for truffles in the forest. Sir Brangwyn was a huge man who loved his food, and he loved the delicately flavored truffles best of all, those sweet, fleshy things that grow on the roots of trees. But they were hard to find, and Rhiannon often searched all day and uncovered only a handful. Next to feasting, Sir Brangwyn loved the hunt, and often, while Rhiannon was out in the woods, he and his knights would come crashing through the trees after the deer. People said there were still ancient beasts in Sir Brangwyn's woods, unicorns and dragons, and basilisks whose gaze could turn you to stone. But Rhiannon had never seen anything like that. A year to the day after her father had been imprisoned, she went into the woods with her basket to hunt for truffles. That night, she was followed back to the edge of the trees by a beautiful little horse, pure white, only a foal, with a silky mane and tail. The people of the village tried to catch it, thinking that perhaps Sir Brangwyn would take it instead of their tax money, but it darted away and vanished into the forest, leaving Rhiannon alone. However, her basket was heaped with precious truffles. It showed me where to dig, she said shyly. Next morning, the villagers set off to find the little white horse for themselves. If it could lead them to a hoard of truffles, their problems with greedy Sir Brangwyn would be over. They could use the truffles to pay their taxes and have money left for their own needs. But though they waited all day, there was no sign of Rhiannon's horse. Only when they had gone home did it come to her, shimmering through the trees, and again truffles filled her basket. Day after day the same thing happened. Sir Brangwen's clerk, who was a monk and a clever man, questioned one of the castle servants about Rhiannon's mysterious little white horse, and one night the servant spied on her in the forest. "It is just as the girl has told us," he said. "The creature runs around in the trees, and where it stops and paws at the ground, she digs and finds truffles. When her basket is full, it puts its head in her lap, and she sings to it. It's a fine little beast," he went on. "There's just one thing." "Yes," said the monk keenly, for he had guessed the truth. "There's a lump between its eyes, as if it were a horn coming," murmured the monk. And he knew that Rhiannon's white horse was a magical creature, a unicorn. The minute the news reached Sir Brangwen, he called together his best huntsmen. There had been no unicorn in the woods for hundreds of years. It would be a prize indeed. The village turned out to help him, setting traps and going into the forest to watch for the little white horse, but nothing did any good. Day after day, they all trailed home disappointed. The unicorn had vanished. Sir Brangwen began to grow impatient. Then the old monk, his clerk, told him what was needed. The surest way to catch a unicorn was to send a young girl alone into the woods to lure it into a clearing. There she could sing to it until it fell asleep. It would not see the huntsman coming, and the prize would be theirs. So poor Rhiannon was dragged before Sir Brangwen and told what she must do. Her tears and protests did no good at all. He said he would kill her parents if she didn't help him. What could she do but go with the royal huntsman into the forest and watch, sick at heart, while they heaped up a great bank of brushwood, behind which they and their horses could hide until the unicorn came. All night they kept watch, with Sir Brangwen the most eager-eyed of all, waiting behind the heaped-up branches on his huge black horse, a great spear in his hand. At last the unicorn came, like moonlight painting the dark trees, looking nervously this way and that, pawing the ground. Then, scenting its friend Rhiannon, it bounded up to her, kissed her on the forehead, and lay down with its head in her lap. But this time she did not sing, and it looked up, puzzled, into her face. At the same moment, Sir Brangwen came thundering through the trees with a cry of triumph, his spear flashing and the blood running down the sides of his great black charger as he spurred it cruelly. Rhiannon leaped up, flung her arms around the unicorn's neck, and dragged it into the forest, and Sir Brangwen roared after them, the blade of his spear poised for one awful thrust. Creeping out from behind the brushwood, the huntsmen and the villagers waited for their lord to return with his prize. But nobody came. All they heard was a crashing of the hooves and a great whinnying noise, a long cry of pain, then silence. Hidden in the shadows, Rhiannon watched as they hunted for Sir Brangwen. In the end, after many hours, they found him lying dead in the forest. There was no sign of his horse or of his murderous spear, but something had pierced him to the heart, and he lay staring glassily into the trees in a great pool of blood. Sir Ivor, son of the wicked Sir Brangwen, was as kind as his father had been cruel. He emptied the castle dungeons. Rhiannon's parents were restored to her and took her home. What she had seen that day in the forest remained her secret forever. All they knew of it were 4 little words, whispered sleepily one night as she fell asleep in her mother's arms. Unicorns have parents too. The end. All right, everyone, thanks so much for joining us this week. I hope you enjoyed the story. Again, pop by to the library yard to see the story walk for this week. The craft bags will be available tomorrow, Tuesday, along with the story walk, as long as the weather's okay. Sometimes we do have to take the story walk down if we have inclement weather. But the craft bags pop right into the library. We can either bring them out during curbside, which is Tuesday and Thursday from 10 to 6, or you can come right into the library and we'll have them for you. All right, I hope you have a wonderful week. Keep reading and exercising, and we will see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.